So you get a balloon, you blow it up, then you cover it with a cavera. Then you make your own bow. And we used to call them tangos.
Tango.
Yeah, to have that tango.
Speaking of that, I have talking about banana fibers. So I have my soccer ball.
Exactly, that's the ball.
I have my soccer ball. For those of you who are watching us on YouTube, I keep this, and I showed it. I had a episode that I did with one of my friends from Liberia. So I was explaining to him how we made these soccer balls. So you talked about banana fibers, and this is what we used to do. So Mujevale. My name is Bani Kibuka, and welcome to another episode of the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. Welcome once again to the Ugandan Boy Talk Show for another episode with your boy, Bani Kibuka. And I've always told you that on my podcast, I like to bring different people from different places to just share about their stories. And in these stories, we'll learn about them and just to enjoy, because I love stories. And today I have a special guest on my podcast. I've been waiting to host this guy. I just met him through social media. Thank God for social media. But today's guest is called none other than Taata Musa, but he'll tell us his original name. So Taata Musa, welcome to the show.
Thank you for hosting me.
So how did you get the name Taata Musa?
My son is called Musa.
Okay.
When we started Tales from Uganda, I wanted to come up with a simple name, and my name was long, so I decided I'll be Taata Musa.
People make fun of me because the living in the United States has affected my pronunciation of some words, and it's not something I'm making myself to do. No. It's because of where I live and how I'm trying to adapt the language because of the people you are. So I tend to pronounce my last name. So some people are like, it's Kibuka. But like when I'm talking, I say Kibuka because that's what all the people here call me. So that has created some problems with people back home and thinking like, oh, I'm jumping onto the American culture. But yeah, I'm thankful to have you on the podcast today.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, so where are you catching this recording from?
I'm currently in the UK, in my house right now, and that's where we are doing the podcast from.
Okay, that's nice. How is the family doing? How are the little ones?
Family is good. The little ones have just gone to bed now.
Okay.
It's past their time, so they have to be in bed. Yeah.
I would say I've followed you on social media, like your family, and you're great people, and I love the kids. They're always fun to look at, having around and learning and teaching, and we'll talk about that a little more. But I believe it's like 8 p.m. over there. How was your day today?
Yeah, the day was good. I actually went to work today, and I had to come back, get ready for this show. And of course, it's been a good day, a good weekend. And it's 8, as you've said. So
that is good. I'm thankful. I like to thank people a lot. So you'll hear me talking. Thank you. But thank you for scheduling this time to just talk.
And thank you for having me.
You grew up in Uganda. Where in Uganda are you from?
I would say I'm from everywhere.
Okay.
So I was born in Masindi, but then I left Masindi. Was when I was at the age of 5. We moved to Jinja. So I've spent most of my childhood in Jinja. Okay. So I've grown up in Jinja.
Oh, nice. I love Jinja. Jinja is one of my favorite places in Uganda, actually.
It's a nice place.
I just took my wife to the River Nile this April. Yeah, we went back to Uganda in April. So we went and visited River Nile. We have some pictures we posted. So
did you enjoy it?
Yeah. So I forgot to tell you, Assalamu alaikum.
Oh, alaikum salam.
Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yes.
I lived in a Muslim community. I grew up. I have a bunch of friends that are Muslim. My family, my house is located in a Muslim community. I'm not Muslim, but I have a lot of friends from that. I love them to death. So you are you a Muganda?
Yes. As culture works back home, you always go with your dad's side. So my dad is a Muganda, my mom is a Munyoro. So I'm a Muganda.
Okay.
That's how it is, yeah.
What did I say?
Nedira na mungona.
Ni musajja wa mamba. So I'm gonna say also tambula mungo Muganda.
Muganda ngisikulimbe so atambulanga Muganda. Tuli baganda ndi Muganda omulongo semu.
Okay. I think that's how I am too. I can only speak, I think, two or one of my grandparents, and then my dad and mom. Yeah. But yeah, I thought you do. So how was your?
It's really complicated, yeah.
Yeah, it's really complicated when you go into like the grandfather of your grandfather of your grandfather, and then bring it back to your parents. I can't remember all those, so I can't lie. I can't so a Tambuanga Muganda. So
too much hassle.
Yeah. So how was your life growing up in Uganda?
Basically, life in Uganda is nice. It's not luxurious. It's nice that you have a family, and even the community is another part of family. So life wasn't easy and wasn't hard, but we managed to grow up. Yes,
that's what I like to tell people. Like life wasn't easy, but it was always fun. Like to think about.
It was always fun. Yeah.
Like we weren't the richest family, but when you remember your life growing up, it was just always fun. Speaking of that, what are some of your favorite childhood memories that you remember when you're growing up in Uganda?
I remember by then there was no smartphones, there was no smart TVs. Before technology really, took over the world. So we used to play football, but these kind of balls that we used to play with, they were made from banana fibres. So you get a balloon, you blow it up, then you cover it with a cavera. Then you make your own ball. And we used to call them tangos.
Tangos.
Yeah, to have that tango.
Speaking of that, I have talking about banana fibers. So I have my soccer ball.
That's the ball.
I have my soccer ball. For those of you who are watching us on YouTube, I keep this, and I showed it. I had a episode that I did with one of my friends from Liberia. So I was explaining to him how we made these soccer balls. So you talked about banana fibers, and this is what we used to do. So when I went to Uganda, I saw this. I was like, I'm gonna buy it, and then I'll put it in my office. So every time I look at it, it reminds me of my childhood. So I can relate when you talk about playing banana fibers or soccer ball.
Yes, those balls were really precious to us. Really, because then the other balls, which were the super tellers, were really expensive. 3,000. You can't just afford that to buy one.
I tell people, and like 3,000, like in the United States, it's like $1, but we couldn't afford that to buy a soccer ball. So that's how we became creative to do that. And people who know my story have been sharing about how I lived a life where we wanted to play soccer, but we didn't have money. And this is what we do. So I remember that very well. And those are some of my childhood memories too. But go ahead.
And as well, we didn't only do make balls. We used to do kites and barbed wire cars, such fun things. And it was amazing. I mean, we never missed a thing. We felt like we are, going with trend, And so then, it was always amazing.
You remember, like, I don't think we had, when I was growing up, at least, we didn't have like toys, where parents go and buy you these big toys, and now kids these days have, but we need to make a motokaza wire. Like you make like a wire and then with a stick, and then you make a cars, those are always like my favorite memories. So where did you go to high school in Uganda, or your school life?
My school life. When I first came to Jinja, that was 2000. I went to a primary school which was called Kadabo Memorial. Then from the primary school, I went to a secondary school. It was a new school. and it was called Busoga Light College.
Okay.
Then from there, I changed schools, high schools twice. Then I went to St. Peter's. That's where I finished my senior six from. Yeah.
Did you ever go to university or not?
Yes, I went to university. I went to Kampala University for my social work.
There's a school. I was supposed to go to Kila College Butiki after my piece. I don't know if you know that. Is it? I think that's in Jinja, right? It's a boys' school.
It's on the hill.
Yeah. So I was supposed to go attend the high school, but I never did. But
it was a fancy.
Yeah. That was the first time. That was the first time I was going to go to a boys' school, Kila College Butiki. So when we were talking about memories and childhood memories, there's one memory that I really enjoyed when I was young, and I was going to share with you because it's something that I think you're associated with right now. But one of my favorite memories was sitting down with our grandparents and telling us stories for the Wakaima, Newango, even at school. And like, did you ever experience that?
Of course. And that's why I came up with this idea of telling stories, because I remember when part of my, I think a big part of my childhood was being told stories. And this was a way of communicating, like teaching morals and teaching history. So whenever we would finish having dinner, we would sit outside because then in most cases in the village, it's, sometimes full moon and it's really light and bright. So they would tell us stories and, surprisingly, like most of the stories they told us, I still remember. I still remember, and they were fun.
Yeah.
Always be like, oh, it's dinner time. We need stories. We want stories. And they'll tell us stories. So
one of my favorites is like, it's like, these are memories I have in my head. Like, we would sit down on a fire and then they'll start telling you stories of like, that was a precious moment. Like, I look back and that's one thing I adore in my childhood, to just spending time with people, talking about those stories. Wakaima, now go
Wango, yes.
And so I believe that's how you started this. I don't know if you call it an organization or a company of Tales from Uganda. Is that?
Yes, that's right. Yes, and basically starting up with Tales from Uganda. Me growing up from back home, we didn't have much we didn't have like a luxurious life, having a TV in the house that we'll be watching like Disney movies or fairy tale movies. So our parents and our grandparents used to tell us stories, and that's the life we grew up, from. So having kids here, I feel like my children have to have a part of the life that I grew up from. So that's why I started telling stories, and I try as well telling these stories to my children. I know they might not understand them, but right now, but within time, maybe they'll start picking up.
Yeah, I gotta say, actually, I had it down on my notes. Like, my wife, when she saw your guys' Instagram, I was like, Bunny, this is really cool. Like, these guys are doing stories from Uganda, because she's been telling me, you gotta teach our kids Luganda. We don't have any kids yet, but eventually when we get kids, you gotta teach our kids Luganda, because having kids in America, it's gonna be tricky, but you have to teach them the Luganda. So when I really like your guys' books or YouTube videos that you do, or whatever you do to keep the language for these kids. And I'm a big fan of what you do. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted you to come on this show.
Thank you.
For the listeners, I want you to tell them like what you do and your Instagram or your social media platforms at this point, because I don't want them to miss it out before I continue with all the other questions I have for you.
Okay. First of all, I would first tell you that we are fundraising to gift books to Ugandan children, diverse books, because as from experience growing up as a kid in Uganda, The books we had, they were really old school books, not easy to understand, even not diverse. So we are having a fundraiser to gift books to Ugandan children. We are working with different organizations and charities through which we'll see how to donate these books or to gift these books.
Okay.
Of course, we have our social media platforms. We have Twitter, we have YouTube, we have Instagram and Facebook. And at the moment, we post stories. We try, at the moment right now, we have a lot of work that we are working behind the scenes at the moment. And recently we just translated the bear hunt story, which had a really positive outcome. People really enjoyed it. And we are working on more stories and more translated stories. I don't know if I've satisfied the point yet.
Yeah. I was clearing my thought a little bit. But yeah, I think in one of your posts or somewhere, you mentioned that your wife actually designs or draws the pictures of the stuff that you have, the illustrations.
Yes. Yeah, she assists with learning resources. So because she's a qualified teacher, so sometimes she assists with the learning resources that we post on our social media platforms.
Nice. So what are some of the achievements? I don't know how long you've been doing this, but like, what are some of the achievements that you've achieved or things you've benefited ever since you decided to do something like this?
I got the opportunity to participate in the Black Lives Matter in the borough that I used to live in here. But then I just moved. So I told stories and then the background of stories, why they are called folk tales. So I had to go into details. And I feel like at the moment, a lot of people, a lot of our subscribers and followers, there are lots of things that they didn't know about culture. And there are a lot of people who are grown up. They've grown up in Uganda, but they've never had a single story in their lives. So Tales from Uganda, because we reach out to a big number of people, it's actually helpful. It gives them hope that, they're learning different ways how culture used to be by then. So I feel like that's a positive impact I'm putting to the society as well.
Yeah, I think so too, because I was going to even tell the listeners, like, if you're out there and listening to this podcast right now, like, if you've not checked out what these guys do, me, myself, like, when I saw your work, it just brought back my memories back from home and sitting down, listening to those stories that you tell. Like, it's something like some of people right now, they've missed that time we were talking about where you'd sit with grandparents and listen to these stories, but like, you can have the same experience from what you're doing, and it can benefit to us, because like you said, some of the people who grew up in Uganda or who they've not had an opportunity to listen to these stories, and you are bringing these stories back to life in our generation, and
for free.
And for free, I forgot to say that. So it's at this very moment I want you can even pause this video and just go on YouTube, type Tales from Uganda or their Instagram. I'm gonna have all this in my description where you can find the resources for that. But yeah, you've mentioned something. You've talked about telling the stories. Yeah, I was gonna ask you a question. You said you're telling stories of the Black Lives Matter. Were you telling these stories in Uganda or in English? Like, how were you doing? Because I know you're in the UK.
Yeah. So yes. The platform I had that day was a UK platform. Of course, they don't know Uganda. So I had to translate these stories into English. And I was telling the stories in English. Sometimes it's a challenge. It's complicated because stories from back home, we have some words in Uganda that they're not in English. And you find a way of explaining them and they're really impossible. So yes, but they enjoyed them. They really enjoyed them. And And I hope in the future I will organize maybe something similar to my fans and listeners of Tales from Uganda, in the UK maybe, or wherever.
Yeah, that's I was gonna say that's the same thing. Like I tell my wife is American and she's white. I don't know if I can say that, but like she's from America and she wants to learn Luganda. So she's trying to find a better way for me to teach her. And when she found your guys' resource, she was like, "Oh yeah, this will help me because it's translates to Luganda. Some of it it's in Luganda and English." Yes. But she would ask me words. So how do you say this in Luganda? Yes. I'm like, huh? What would you say that word? Like we don't have that word. Like we don't have it. Yeah. And like she's like, how don't you have a word in Luganda? Like, oh, maybe we do, but like it didn't get to our generation. Like that language. Yes. So like it got lost somewhere.
Yeah. And the thing is, there has been existence of new English words that we never had. Technology has brought a lot of things in existence that we never had in our local language. So we have to improvise. How? By calling them the English name.
Yeah, that's definitely because
that's the only way you can. Yeah.
When she goes to Uganda, then she would pick up the English words that people mix in the Luganda, then he can connect with that. But like I know when we do things in life, there's always achievements and there are some challenges. Are there some challenges that you've experienced while doing this?
Yeah, of course. So we've had some challenges. And one of the challenge I would say is time. One of the challenges is time. Time to record these videos. Time to come up with better understandable words, because most of my stories I want to translate them from Uganda to English. So sometimes that takes time. And another challenge is sometimes it's, before it was the equipment as well. Like recording equipment, good camera, lighting, stuff like that, because sometimes the weather here changes all the time. Sometimes one day you're in summer, another day you in the winter, it's really dark. So but we are trying to manage. We are trying to manage step by step.
Yeah. So I mean, I understand because I can relate to some of the things you're just talking about when I was choosing to start my podcast. And I do this for free. I don't get paid for it. It's something I love. I love listening to stories, like hosting people like you and reaching these stories to people out there so people can get this information. So like I'm like a middleman to transport information. Yes. But like the same challenges, like you have to buy these things for yourself to make sure you do good work. Definitely relate. So you on the topic of challenges, you've just mentioned, I don't know if if you're not fine with talking about this, we can just let it go. But you talked about serving with the Black Lives Matter and being a part of that. Yes. And I noticed you put up a notice on your social media handles about the negative comments about Black Lives Matter and how has that affected you and your life and your family?
This is the other thing. I believe racism exists, and it's always going to be part of the world. It's going to be part. It's always going to be there. You can't stop it. However, you can just choose not to promote it or entertain it. So we've had a lot of negative comments because of the video we posted of Musa saying Black Lives Matter. However, that hasn't put us off from doing what we do best, which is producing stories, educative material, and so on.
I was actually I had a question in here to ask you later about the racism and how you dealt with it. Because myself, like like married to a white lady who is in the United States, and I know you're married to a white lady in the UK. How is that for you? Like, how is life for you being a Ugandan guy or a Ugandan black guy married to a white lady in the UK? Do you guys experience? I don't even know how to ask it, but like, how is it? How is it for you guys over there?
I mean, life is always complicated when you marry someone from a different culture, different life setting. Life can get sometimes complicated. I'll give you an example. My work colleagues, for at least 2 years, they knew I was married, but they assumed my wife was black. That's what they assumed. And then one day, when my wife gave birth to Musa, I told my wife, actually, my colleagues want to meet you. And I mean, they were kind of shocked, like, oh, your wife is actually white. It's like, yes.
Yeah.
So they were shocked. But again, it's also to do with, I think, culture and, everything.
Yeah.
Because, and I don't know if I should say this, now my children are mixed race. In the UK, they will be always called mixed race. So they're like black kids, isn't it? And when we go back to Uganda, they will call them Muzungu. So they're just like this, So as if they don't fit, they're like in their own land.
Right.
In Uganda, they think they're Muzungu. Here, they say, okay, they're mixed race, they're black. So it's always,
yeah,
it's a really, really weird and
how did your family back in Uganda feel about it? Like, were they hesitant about it, or they were just okay with it?
My family, me growing up, my dad was a night watchman, and he used to work for some European guy. So we used to go there sometimes on weekends to watch movies. So I came up from a setting of being familiar with white people, and my family being like, near white people. And when I started growing up, when I was like in senior 3, something like that, then I got involved with a different charity. Of course, we received a lot of volunteers from different parts of the world. So, yeah, I think from where I've grown up, there has been a lot of different people from different cultures and race.
So that makes it easy for your family to understand.
Yes.
I think it's the same thing to me. Like, we had a lot of like missionaries come to Uganda, and my dad was associated with them, and my dad had been to the United States. So I think it was easy for them to understand. And my parents know me, and or my dad always asks you like, hey, what do you want to do? Is it right for you? Once he knows, like, and we have that relationship with them where they understand and they're well educated and they know like life. But yeah, I thought I would ask you about that. But
the funny thing is, when I was young, my dad used to work for European people, and I thought he spoke really good English by then when I was young. But then when we grew up and I took my wife, by then when she was my girlfriend, then I realized he was struggling to speak English. Then I was like, how did you used to speak to your bosses? I remember I used to speak to your bosses.
That's the same thing with my dad. So my dad used to speak this English when the Bazungu come to Uganda. I'm like, yeah, address them, take them here, take them there. And I go back to Uganda, and then you start stammering. I'm like, I thought you, and my dad doesn't like to admit that he's struggling. I speak very good English, but I can relate to that. But yeah, I really like what you do and what you've stepped into, because you're helping a lot of, you don't even know. Like, I'm just telling you, first, like, when we have our kids, those are the materials we're gonna look up to. Actually, my wife just followed your guys' page, your YouTube, and she's like, yeah, I'm gonna save this video.
That's nice.
Because one time she was on YouTube and she was trying to find like kids stories for Uganda, because she wants to like find those and make sure she has those resources. And she was happy when she saw that. So you're doing a very big thing. It's not like it's going to help a lot of people. And this is something that's helping the whole world, like people like us and people who want to travel in any way, people who want to learn another language. So I want to appreciate you for what you're doing.
No, thank you.
What
you're doing a great job as well.
Thank you very much. So what has been your life lesson? Like in life, you've gone through a lot of things, you've been to a lot of places. What's one thing you can pick out like this has been my life lesson? I've learned this from the life.
It's always nice to be humble, honest, and reliable person, because I've got a lot of chances growing up because of my character of being a respectful young man and humble. Because where I grew up from, if you don't have those qualities of what the society expects you to have as a child, then you find life difficult.
Yeah.
So through that, I've had lots of opportunities. I've had people paying for my tuition. I've had people supporting me in different situations, life situations. So I would say being humble and honest person is really good, important.
I'm glad you shared that, because that just made me remember myself and what I have in my head, like where I come from. You have to be humble. And so when I came to the United States, people helped me. Like my family is back in Uganda. My dad, mom, brother, they're all back in Uganda. I moved here and started my own life, went to school. My parents couldn't afford to pay me for school. And I share about this in my first 3 episodes. So if people are listening and want to know the details of that, you can go back and watch that. But people paid for my tuition without even my parents paying, but just being humble. So in whatever you do in life, be humble and be willing to learn and hardworking. I almost forgot one question I wanted to ask you. So are you a Muslim now?
So I'm a Muslim, but I'm not a practical Muslim. That's the thing. So when I was in Uganda, I was more practical. But when I came here, I find it difficult to work, family, go for prayers. So even the fasting is here is ridiculous. People fast until 10 p.m. because it's in summer. Those are long hours of not eating.
Because I was gonna ask you a question like, is it hard to live as a Muslim in the UK, or like how is it?
For me, it's not hard because I'm a flexible. I'm not like practical. However, there's a lot of Muslim community in the UK, because whenever it's Friday, you see a lot of people going for prayers and coming back from prayers. Yeah.
Okay. That's nice. So what message would you send out to the kids and parents back in Uganda? Because on one of your posts you mentioned like you just said you're fundraising to raise money for the kids in Uganda. So what kind of message are you sending to the kids, to the parents back in Uganda whose schools have been locked down for like 2 years?
The message I would send to the parents in Uganda, I would just say, let's go back to our roots. Let's tell stories. I mean, let's educate kids the way they got it. I mean, not like most of our parents went to school. My dad went to school, but not like finished up to I think he went up to like primary 7. And most of his knowledge he has today is because he was taught by his dad and other elders. So let's teach what we can. Don't be reluctant because the schools are shut and be like, oh, I don't know what to teach my kids. No, what you know is what you teach. What you don't know, don't teach it. You teach what you know. And every single piece of advice you give to your kid will help them.
Right. Yeah, and I feel like kids are not going to learn everything from school, like even when they go to school. There are some things, basic things of life that parents can teach these kids while they're not going to school. And there are some basic things that we study in school that you can teach the kids, like the alphabets, the numbers, the additions, the subtractions. So like what you just said, like what you can teach these kids, and then impact them with other information that they won't get at school, like life skills.
Life skills.
At school, they
Morals.
don't teach life school. Yeah. Like teach them that even when they don't get a chance to do that, they at least learn something. So it's not a waste of time. So I like that you mentioned that. And we're coming almost close to the end of this episode or podcast. But I want to ask you, what gets you excited about life?
I mean, what gets me excited about life is I have a family to look after. I never, for once, never even thought that I would have a family for myself. Have children, which I have now. I have two kids. When I first had Musa, I didn't believe it. I was like, "Oh, am I dad? Am I dad?" Because I physically look young. People say you really look young, and sometimes they don't believe that I have two kids. So I'm excited that I have a family, and as well, I want to see how Tales from Uganda can go, because we want to reach out to every single being that could be interested in knowing culture and maybe learning a few things from different maybe life setting.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I want to thank you for that. And like I said, nothing beats family. Like family, God has blessed you with that, and kids to look after, to take care of. So when you got that opportunity to take care of them, so that would get me excited about life too. And I can't wait to get to the point. And to go back to the point you just said, I get that a lot in the US when people look at me, because I just turned 29, and people look at me and they're like, "You look 18. You look 18." I'm like, "We didn't think you." Like, I'm gonna be studying.
I'm actually 29 as well, and I work with young people.
Yeah.
But because the young people I work with, they're like 17, 18, up to like the age of 21. So sometimes they look at me like, "Are you 18? Are you 19? Are you 20?" But then they can't believe that I'm working with them. I'm supporting them in life. So I'm like, no, I'm not your age, mate. I'm quite older.
I played soccer, like if you notice my jersey up there, and I played in college, but all the kids I played with were like 17, 18, 20. And here I was 26 trying to run with these kids on the field. I'm like 27, I'm just running. And the kids call me grandpa. So we played soccer, and the kids would say, "Give it to grandpa, give it to grandpa." But anyway, I want to thank you for sacrificing the time or giving us this time to just sit here and talk to us. But I was going to ask you a question, and who would you want to see next on our talk show, on our podcast? And you should be able to help us get this person. It could be anyone, anybody you know that might be interested in being on the podcast.
Oh, the next person, he's a friend of mine. I don't know if you're a fan. I don't know what your hobbies could be, but my other passion is bodybuilding.
Okay.
So I have a friend of mine who does bodybuilding in Uganda. He was 3 times Mr. Uganda, but at the moment he's not in Uganda. He's living in UAE, and it's called Isaac Mobikura. I don't know if you.
I think I've heard the name before. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I can talk to him, and I give him like your details and vice versa. Yeah, I think he would have a good story to tell.
Yeah, we love stories. That would be definitely amazing. And if you could help us connect to him, that would be interesting. That would be amazing. So without taking a lot of your time, I know it's already night, and I don't want the wife to start asking, "Where did my husband go?" But thank you for giving us this time and talking to us. I'm sure people will love to listen to what you do, and reminding them to go check you out and check all the things you do. I'll put the information in my description so people can check out whatever work you do.
Thank you for hosting me.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey there, I am Bonnie Kibuka, the host of the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. Thanks for watching my video and don't forget to hit subscribe and share with a friend. Tune in every Saturday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time for a new episode about my podcast. And for more information about this podcast, follow me on my Instagram page, talk_show_256.